If diversity is tied to race, then race will always tie the goals of diversity. A study on cumulative effects of diversity training noted that although it has positive effects on attitudes, behaviors, and actions, that after the training and as time passes, people will remember the new knowledge, but their beliefs and behaviors tend to revert back to how they were before the training. I'm sure the majority of you watching this clip today can relate to some experience of diversity training in your respective work environments. I know that for me, I can, with a good majority of confidence, tell you what my findings were in my experience. Typically, there are about 3 to 4 reactions that are consistent across diversity trainings. I'll start with those participants who identify as black. Those who identify as black, the first reaction would be a feeling of confirmation for all of those moments of hidden racism, where things happened, those microaggression behaviors that you just couldn't quite put your finger on. You knew something was up, you knew something wasn't feeling right, you felt like you were being insulted, but you couldn't quite nail it down, right? I know I've been there. So it was a feeling of freedom to say, hey, I'm not crazy. That feeling that we were being gaslit. And for those who don't know what the term gaslighting is, it's a psychological manipulation strategy where a person will say and do things and make it seem as if it's your imagination or it's a problem with you. Very effective technique. The second reaction on the part of some participants who identify as black is this need to protect those who identify as white, protect them from the harsh realities of our history of racism, to spare their feelings. It's that case of white fragility, where just the reality of racism is too much for them to take. Which that gets into some of the typical reactions of those participants who identify as white. The first reaction is guilt, overwhelming guilt. Guilt at realizing that they have been the beneficiary of a social system purely based on their white skin and nothing else. And that cost of the privilege came at the expense of those people and communities that don't look like them. And then the last and most significant reaction is outright rage, anger, on the part of those who identify as white. Anger and rage at being potentially accused of being a racist, of having their lineage, ancestry accused of being racist. Just that accusation alone is enough to just set that person off. That's the factor that ties all of those emotional responses together is a feeling of lack of empowerment. In other words, you've been given all this new knowledge from the training. Some of them were, kumbaya moments and emotional gut-jerking moments. But once you leave the training, what do you do now? And you're leaving with a feeling of confirmation, but you're still not hopeless or hopeful that anything will change. You're feeling with going overwhelming guilt, which is a paralyzer. Guilt and blame are paralyzing factors in any type of relationship, whether it's a personal relationship, business relationship, sibling relationship. Once you enter guilt and blame in any aspect of those relationships, it kills everything. So I'd like to clarify the concept of diversity just to further strengthen the stance that I'm taking. The classic definition of diversity is this: the range of human differences including but not limited to race, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, age, social class, physical ability or attributes, religious or ethical value system, national origin, and political beliefs. So again, the fact that diversity includes race as part of the platform is where I see the strategic flaw. Let me ask you a question. In America, we are built on the concept of the race construct. So I'm going to ask you this question. In America, which color is on top and which color is on bottom? Again, which color is on top and which color is on bottom in the race construct hierarchy? And if you're being intellectually honest with yourself, you instinctively know. And it's my premise that that instinctive knowledge is what contributes to the lack of effectiveness and the potential sabotaging of the goals of any diversity program. Let me read you a historical fact here. The race construct was created for societal divisions, not intended for purposes of unity. In the 1860s, although slavery ended, race as a social status and basis of our human identities remained. Race ideology proclaimed the existence of separate, distinct, and exclusive groups that were made unequal by God or nature. African Americans, the most inferior, were at the bottom of the hierarchy. European whites, some of them, were at the top. In a quote by Albert Einstein, he states, "You can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it." The abolishment of slavery, the Civil Rights Act, affirmative action, and countless other initiatives designed to equal the playing field and address racial issues of discrimination and hatred. All of them had one fatal flaw in their strategy: the philosophical premise of race as their foundational ideology. Just like the statistically average lottery winner who goes broke generally in 5 years and runs through all of his or her winnings, generally due to a mindset of poverty. While his external financial system has changed, his internal mental mindset system did not. And we all ultimately go back to home. All roads lead back to home. Well, it's a similar analogy to today's form of diversity training. We're addressing outward behaviors, we're giving new knowledge, but we're not addressing the root cause of the behaviors. And having that mindset of race, the identity of race, is what sabotages and holds back or dilutes any real growth, and at best it's short term. So that's why I do this work. I'm the author of a couple of works addressing the racist construct from a mental health perspective. My first book is Beliefs Limiting Authentic Cultural Knowledge, which addresses the belief systems of color. And I also have Racism, the Disease and How to Cure It, which really breaks down the race construct, identity, and goes into some behavioral criteria and characteristics with which to diagnose racism from a mental health perspective. So I would be curious to your responses to my premise. Please leave your comments below in the comments section. If you like this content, I would appreciate your subscribing and tapping of the notification bell. I'm George Middleton, and until next time.